million jobs in just the month of January. In addition, we also learned that there are 500,000 more jobs created last year than we thought. So the January report is updated. The December report is updated. Add that all up, it means we created 12 million jobs since I took office. That means we have created more jobs in 2 years than any presidential term, than any time in 2 years. That's the strongest 2 years of job growth in history by a long shot. As my dad used to say, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. And 12 million more Americans get up every morning knowing they can provide for their families with the dignity and sense of self-worth that had been missing. We also learned that the unemployment rate fell to 3.4%. 3.4%. That's the lowest in 54 years. In fact, the last time unemployment rate was that low was May of 1969. Think about that. And what's more, Black and Hispanic unemployment are near record lows. This matters. The more working-age folks coming to the labor market looking for jobs last month than have in a long while. That is, remember all the talk about no one's looking for, we need more people coming into the market. Well, more people are coming into the market looking for jobs and getting jobs. A positive sign for the health of the economy going forward. And even as the job market reaches historic highs, inflation continues to come down. Inflation has now fallen for 6 straight months. Gas prices are down more than $1.50 a gallon since their peak. Food inflation is falling as well. And as inflation is coming down, take-home pay for workers is going up. Real wages are up. Wages for lower-income, middle-income workers have gone up even more. Couple that with a 2.9% economic growth last quarter, and here's where we stand. The strongest job growth in history, the lowest unemployment rate in 54 years, manufacturing rebounding at a faster rate than in the last 40 years, inflation coming down, real wages going up, but moderately going up, not going through the roof, the economy growing at a solid clip. Put simply, I would argue the Biden economic plan is working. For the past 2 years, we've heard a chorus of critics write off my economic plan. They said it's just not possible to grow the economy from the bottom up and the middle out. They said we can't bring back American manufacturing. They said we can't make things in America anymore. That somehow adding jobs was a bad thing. Well, or that the only way to slow down inflation was to destroy jobs. Well, today's data makes crystal clear what I've always known in my gut. These critics and cynics are wrong. While we may face setbacks along the way, and there will be some, there's more work to do, it's clear. Our plan is working because of the grit and resolve of the American worker. We're going to keep lowering costs for families, from lowering costs in health care, prescription drugs, clean energy. Because we passed that legislation, we're going to be rolling it out this whole year. We're going to keep seeing shovels hitting the ground all around the country to rebuild the infrastructure and supply chains, manufacturing more here at home. And in communities across the country that were too easily written off for dead, we're going to not only see jobs coming back, but a sense of self-worth and pride coming back. Nothing worse than when a city has a major manufacturer leave, shut down, and all of a sudden your kid getting out of high school or college says, Mom, we got to move. Nothing here for me anymore. Nothing here. Well, I'm intent on changing that in the heartland as well. That's how we build an America where we all can take pride in working families, have good jobs, and a little more breathing room. And as the economy grows from the bottom up and the middle out, it's my objective for the long haul. Trickle-down economics works for one group of Americans. It doesn't work for everybody. And so this is what it's all about. So I'm heading off to Philadelphia, and if you want to ask me a question about the economy, but I'm not going to answer any question about anything else because you never will cover this.
Mr. President, why did you decide to postpone Secretary Blinken's trip?
Do you take any blame for inflation, Mr. President?
Do I take any blame for inflation? No.
Correct. Why not?
Because it was already there when I got here, man. Remember what the economy was like when I got here? Jobs were hemorrhaging. Inflation was rising. We weren't manufacturing a damn thing here. We were in real economic difficulty. That's why I don't. Thank you.
China's fighting this
right, so we've just been listening to the president talking about the latest jobs numbers. We're going to bring in Ed O'Keefe now to break down the president's remarks. But not just that, Ed. I think it's not just what the president said, but it's what he didn't say. There's some breaking news that I want to get to first. And we could hear reporters asking him about this, that the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, is postponing his trip to China. He was supposed to be traveling to China, and I believe Monday he was going to meet with Xi Jinping. So this is like a high-level meeting. And now we're hearing that that's going to be postponed. Give us the details. What have you heard?
That's right. Two diplomatic sources tell CBS News, and there's an ongoing call with State Department officials right now for reporters telling us that the Secretary of State was supposed to leave tonight for China to meet with President Xi on Monday, the first Secretary of State to do so since Mike Pompeo early in the Trump administration. That trip is now off in response to the discovery of this massive Chinese spy balloon floating somewhere now over the Midwestern United States. The president had first learned about this on Wednesday. There had been conversation about shooting it down. The Pentagon urged him not to do that, so they're monitoring it. The U.S. has now acknowledged its existence. The Chinese this morning, through their foreign ministry, saying that it's there for scientific or civilian purposes. We'll see whether or not the United States believes that. But a huge blow to the Biden administration's attempts to restart talks with China on all levels. Remember, the two leaders met last year on the sidelines of the G20 and agreed to have Secretary Blinken visit Beijing to meet with Xi and other officials to jumpstart long-stalled talks on everything from economic cooperation to China's economic espionage to climate change and, of course, concerns about Taiwan, the war in Ukraine and whatnot. And the Biden administration, since the start, has been eager to restart those talks out of concern that the two world superpowers need to at least be talking to each other on a regular basis in this way to maintain world order. So to postpone this, and note the word postpone, not cancel, can be rescheduled, but a blow to that and a design to send a diplomatic message to China that they're not happy about discovering this spy balloon.
But, you know, Ed, just to give us a little more context, it's not just about this this spy balloon, right? We've got the news earlier this week that the U.S. is expanding its military relationship cooperation with the Philippines. And, you know, also the news, I think it was last week, of this memo that was leaked with a general warning those under his command that he sees a war with China in the next couple of years.
Right, there's that, and of course the Pentagon made clear that Air Force general was speaking for himself and it wasn't the official position of the Pentagon. We could also throw in the fact that the United States has been trying to get Japan and the Netherlands and other countries to stop selling manufacturing parts to China for its semiconductor industry. So you're seeing the relationship, the yin and the yang of it, so to speak, and not to be purposeful about that, but literally there's the back and forth between these two countries in a military and economic way. And that is why there was this desire to maintain the open and official lines of diplomacy that, at least for now, have been postponed. We'll wait and hear about when exactly the Secretary of State might reschedule that trip. Notable, as you said, that he did not take shouted questions from our Wei Zhejiang and others in the room there trying to get him to talk about this situation, because there's an eagerness to figure out why it happened and why it wasn't discovered sooner and why he opted not to shoot it down. Republicans today, especially those on Capitol Hill, even former President Trump in a Truth Social tweet a little while ago suggesting it should be shot down despite any potential damage or harm to Americans on the ground.
And Ed, we're hearing from Beijing that basically they're saying this was an accident, right? And so obviously that was not enough to prevent Blinken from canceling this trip. They're not buying it.
And I think we'll wait to hear, we'll wait to hear what the State Department, the White House, the President think of that explanation as the day progresses. The President's very sensitive to speaking on China publicly because he understands that this is perhaps, next to the situation with Russia, obviously the most critical relationship and back and forth in the world right now, given that so much of the world economy and military power pivots off of these two countries. So we'll see if at some point today he comments on this. Perhaps just didn't want to do it there. The other reason I want to do it is look at this economic report this morning. This jobs report blew away expectations, far exceeding the expectation that this would happen. The unemployment rate now the lowest it's been since the late 1960s. Unemployment for black Americans down, for women it's down. Huge gains in the leisure sector, the retail, the construction sectors, all good signs of a strong economy. The only people kind of upset about this or worried, of course, are those on Wall Street the numbers down so far this morning because of concerns that this means the Federal Reserve will keep raising interest rates to stem off inflation. And you saw him there defend his oversight or attempts to stem inflation, saying it didn't start with me, and we're doing what we can. Of course, the Federal Reserve is separate and will handle it however it sees fit, having raised things a quarter point earlier this week. So a lot on the president's plate.
Yeah.
He's coming here to Philadelphia for politics, to talk to Democrats ahead of his anticipated reelection for a meeting they hold every winter. So a little politics and a lot of official duties on his plate today.
Man, Ed O'Keefe is complete.
He is.
I mean, he covers all the bases. You ask him one question, he gives you everything. Ed, thank you so much.
Take care.
All right, so we're going to continue to follow the discovery of a suspected Chinese spy balloon over the U.S. and the cancellation of Secretary of State Anthony Blinken's trip to China. At noon Eastern, we're expecting a briefing from the Pentagon, and we'll, of course, bring that to you live. For now, though, we are going to take a break. You're streaming CBS News.